Hey, friend, it's great to be with you on this Church Tips podcast, and I've got the privilege today to hang out with a friend of mine from Florence, Alabama, Bobby Gourley of the Great Church Chapel in Florence. Say hi, Bobby, to a bunch of great pastors.
Hey, it's Bobby Gourley. Great to be here with you. It's great having breakfast with you last week. As always, when you pay, it's always better.
It's always, guess what? They only want me because I pay for the meal. So, but we did have a great time down there. And Bobby's a pastor in the town where my daughter and son-in-law and grandkids live. So we're constantly making the 8-hour trip down to Florence. But I always enjoy talking to Bobby just about church. We just are church junkies, and we've had a great ride. Both of us have had great rides serving in great ministries, had a real privilege that the Lord has allowed us to do so and allowed our paths to cross. And one of the things we were just banging around recently was the whole thoughts of the future and what AI is going to mean to the church and to the pastor. So this is still a relatively new topic for lots of pastors. Some of them are trying to get their head around it. So, Bobby, we're just going to drop a quarter in you and have you talk a little bit about what you see with AI and how churches and ministries are going to be able to leverage this to advance the kingdom. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, ministry changes very quickly. I was talking to a pastor friend of mine, it's like last year. I felt like sermon-wise, I could get out ahead of what was going to happen culturally in our church and surrounding area. Now it seems like culture changes so quickly, you're just playing catch-up continually. Right. And one of the things that happened with that was AI. I think it was just about a year ago that ChatGPT kind of launched publicly. And I saw podcast I'd seen on Twitter, also known X. I don't know anybody that actually calls it X still. I think it's still called Twitter, but of ChatGPT and writing sermons for people. I ran into a worship leader. He gave ChatGPT a cue and said, "Hey, write me a song about God's love in a Chris Tomlin style with a bridge that's big." And boom, within half a second, he had a song. Yeah, and so that's scary to know that as a pastor that you can be replaced by AI at some point. But I think it's also scary for people when they hear the word AI. They think of Matthew 24. We were preaching this a couple months ago that Jesus said there's going to be false teachers and rumors of war and all these things going on in Matthew 24. And I think one of those things that could happen would be AI with deep fakes and fake news. It can produce it quickly and looks really real. But on the other side, it's not just a negative thing. It can actually help us get the gospel further, faster than ever before if we utilize it correctly. And so I did a really deep dive in just what is AI. And there's some really good stuff with AI that's out there. Like they're using AI in Africa and have been for years to really find out where food needs to get to for droughts, to make sure there's no kids starving to death, for medical science, finding cancer quicker than ever. Like there's some really great things. And I think ministry, it could be a negative side to it, but also be a really positive thing. And so we did a deep dive and we're starting to utilize AI quite a bit, actually. And at first I was a little nervous, and now I realize it's absolutely amazing. Yeah. I first got into ChatGPT, and I needed to write a letter. We have a woman, she's a doctor professor at the local university who helps with our Dream Center. And she was up for tenure, and she said, "Can you write me a recommendation letter for tenure?" And I was like, "Sure." Well, I'm used to writing recommendation letters. It'll take you an hour just to get it typed up. And I went straight to ChatGPT, and I gave it to you, "Write me a recommendation letter for Dr. Becky Smith for the Board of Tenure at the University of North Alabama for all of her work she's done at the Shoals Dream Center, where she oversees, 100 interns a semester, gave this many hours," and boom, hit return, and the letter was done. And what used to take me an hour took 5 minutes, and it was much better written than I would have ever wrote it.
Okay, on that, how much did you have to edit that thing?
That one, not much, because it was a professional style. It was professional, so it was better than I would have made it professional. I'm just Nashville Southern, trailer park kid, so it was much better than I could have done. So that's kind of how I got started. And then we were paying an outside company to do some social media videos, some reels each week. So we'd send them our YouTube video, and they would give us 3 or 4 videos a week. We're paying, close to $1,000. And then we found sermonshots.com. So sermonshots.com For $89 a month, we put our YouTube link in it ourselves, and it generates AI-generated clips from our Sunday morning sermons.
Really?
Captions them, recommends, hey, use this clip. We can add, it actually gives you the full transcript, but we can make the video a little bit longer, a little bit shorter. We can customize it a little bit, and then push download, and within 5 minutes, we have a social media clip. And
wow.
It does sermon discussion questions automatically. It does a full transcript. It does a short summary, long summary, a blog summary, which we're about to start releasing on our website, a full blog of the sermon before. So that hour and a half on Sunday morning is now becoming a 24/7 message throughout the week, for little to nothing. So that's kind of the social media world. And then Jasper AI is another AI ChatGPT like for marketing purposes, that you actually put your language into it. And so it uses your language to produce copy. And so we're using that for almost all our social media. Hey, write me a Instagram post for this Sunday's worship service. Here's the songs we're doing, utilize the lyrics, and boom, it produces. So we don't write any more copy.
So when you're saying uses your language, it begins to learn Bobby Gourley in this case.
That's right. Or not Bobby Gourley. It begins to learn Christ Chapel.
Christ Chapel. Okay. The way Christ Chapel talks. Okay.
Our values, our DNA, and it starts to customize it the longer you go. And so it's still our content, but they're polishing up our content for social media purposes, which is really cool. And then ChatGPT, also we use that. So once I finish my sermon on Thursday, I have a deadline of noon on Thursday to get to our media team and get to everybody else. I will take the full notes, and I don't manuscript, so it's kind of bullet point. I'll take that and I'll put it in ChatGPT and say, write us a YouTube description for this sermon. And it writes the full YouTube description. We copy and paste that into YouTube. And so now before we even preach the sermon, it's already running on YouTube, which is super easy, super powerful way to do it. What's some other ways? Let
me ask you, another piece that jumps to mind here. Is there any, I can hear a pastor sitting out there liking what you're talking about, but wondering about the issue on the sermon side of things of plagiarism. Do we have any concerns there to be cautious of, or not? What?
Well, it's our content. So we're not asking it to produce any content. So we're taking our content and putting it in there, and then it summarize it for us for whatever we need it for. So it's my sermon notes. So, if it was this Sunday, Pastor Jason preached on Joshua 3. So we took his sermon notes in on Thursday, put it in, and it produced the YouTube description video. And we use that same prompt to create social media posts for it as well.
Okay, so in your case, are you not using AI to help produce sermons?
Correct, not at all.
Okay, is that a conscious decision, or?
Yeah, it's conscious for us. We want it to be our stuff. I have asked ChatGPT to rephrase something for me. Okay. It never really worked for my language, but it may work for other people's language. Where I'm struggling with like a phrase in my sermon, and I'll put it in there. Hey, give me another phrase that sounds like this. Okay. Which is really cool, but it just didn't work for us. Okay. So no, we're not asking it to produce any language or content.
So I'm guessing if a pastor was asking it to help with sermon content, they're going to have to give some critical eye to it to make sure that there is no plagiarism involved. Correct. There.
Yep.
So,
and then even like social media wise, like for Passion Week, we had ChatGPT write me a social media schedule for Passion Week, and it produced, Monday, Thursday, Palm Sunday, and so it gave us content to start with. So then we customized it for us, but it gave us a good outline to use. So it just saves you a ton of time. Now, I have a buddy. I was with him on a trip, and I was like, "Hey, have you read this book?" And he's like, "Dude, I don't read books anymore." I was like, "What?" He's a pastor. I was like, "What do you mean you don't read books?" He's like, he pulled up his phone and said, ChatGPT, give me a summary for what's Jonathan's book about the arrows?
Arrow Striker.
Give me a summary for Arrow Striker. And it would produce a summary of the book. And he said, if I want to learn more, I said, give me a chapter by chapter summary. And so it just cut out a lot of his stuff. Now, I don't do that, but it's interesting. Pastors are using it to really cut down on time.
Yeah. They're old. It's a new version of the old term. Some of the older pastors remember Cliff Notes. Cliff Notes.
Cliff Notes.
So,
Cliff Notes.
But so you're seeing just an awful lot of positive that if pastors would harness it properly, you really could do an awful lot of good for the church, the kingdom, and the message of the gospel.
Yeah, you're going to save money. So we went from spending $1,000 a month for some social media videos to $89 a month. It cuts back on our time tremendously, but then it maximizes the run of that sermon, where now you have the video clips, you have basically a blog. You can copy and paste a blog that summarizes your sermon in the blog form. You could probably even do book form with that as well at some point. And so it just really maximizes the impact of your Sunday morning message to get it as far as you can get it.
Yeah. Wow.
It's wild.
Wow. That is cool. So what's the biggest caution you would say to pastors to be careful of with AI? Or maybe there's more than one. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say the biggest caution would be don't get lazy and let AI do the work of ministry for you. Let it be a tool in your tool belt to help you do ministry better.
Okay.
Is what I would say. I would hope no one would use it to write their sermons. I would hope no one would use it to write their, create worship songs. But I think there's always a temptation to cheat if it's there.
Yeah.
I got 4 kids and 3 in college and 1 in high school. They use ChatGPT to cheat on everything.
Yeah.
And they'll take it. They write their paper through it. Then they run it through another software to remove the plagiarism stuff. They put it into another one to make it sound like they wanted to sound. And then I think that's the downfall, is you can see pastors lose their anointing because they're trying to make it easy. Yeah,
no, that's for sure. This has been great, Bobby. Give these guys a hitch up. We've talked about a variety of things. If they haven't remembered anything, what is it you want to remember out of our conversation today?
That every week God gives you a word He wants you to get to your people. But He doesn't want to just get it to your people. He wants to get it through your people to people outside the walls of the church who need it even more.
Right.
Charles Spurgeon used to they'd print his sermons Sunday night, and it was in the paper on Monday morning. Now we can do the same thing with using AI to help get it from our heart through the microphone to the church into the world quicker and faster than ever before.
Wow, that is so good. Bobby Gourley, can't thank you enough for taking time to hang out with our pastors here on the Church Tips podcast. If they wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way? To go to the website is wearechapel.org.
wearechapel.org, or Facebook, Instagram. It's at Bobby Gourley.
Okay, very good. Thank you again, Bobby. Really appreciate it. And thanks for all of you folks who took some time to listen, to watch this podcast. It's been a great one, and I hope it's of great value to you. Make it a great one today, and be blessed.
Hey, Jonathan here, real quick before you go. Everything in your ministry rises and falls on your leadership. So investing in your leadership is essential to staying healthy and growing the ministry. And that's why I want to invite you to join us inside the Leaders.Church membership. This online streaming service for pastors gives you access to more than 300 videos plus training material to level up your leadership and improve your ministry skills. If you'd like to do that, I want to invite you to go to Leaders.Church/boost. Again, that's Leaders.Church/boost. Well, thanks again for joining us on the Church Tips podcast. We'll look forward to seeing you next time.